Welcome to the Fitness Queens podcast, empowering your mind and sculpting your body. Join your hosts, multiple fitness world champions, Alicia and Stephanie McHugh, as we explore all things female health, training, competing, mindset, and living the fitness life every day.
Everybody, welcome to the very long overdue episode of We Fitness Queens with my beautiful co-host, Stephanie McHugh.
Hello, everyone. Oh my gosh, it has been a minute, maybe too long.
A minute. We've been so both of us. And it's just, yeah, like before you know it, this we were just saying off air. I can't believe we haven't done this since Texas, but I can believe it because that last 8 weeks has had so much shit jam-packed into it.
It's been a roller coaster to say the least, honestly, since the FMG Texas show to then obviously there was in the midst of it the FMG UK show, then we went straight into the FMG California show, and here we are a couple weeks post show from the California show.
Yeah,
man, I feel like I blinked and things literally just transported in time. I traveled to time, so I feel like I'm barely catching up, Ellie. So good to see you.
I'm so disappointed we couldn't get to the LA show. It was just the one show this season that just couldn't work out for us timeline wise. But we did have a couple of athletes in it. So we had 2 girls go pro, which I am so excited about. Michelle went pro in the fitness amateurs, and Montana was our Bikini Athletic.
She was phenomenal. She was awesome. Yes.
Backing up here in the pro Bikini Athletic now. And I'm so excited for her.
Can you just take a moment really quickly and just say how fucking good the Bikini Athletic category is in the FMG?
I don't
obsessed.
We needed this category, I reckon, a decade ago. We needed this category back when we implemented wellness, because we've always had that breed of girl who is too much more developed, but she's definitely not a fitness. And then we always had those girls that were thicker, lower dominant, gorgeous, curves that were like more mass, more development, but definitely not bikini, absolutely not symmetrical enough for fitness. We've always had these girls, and now I love that they're owning these categories, and it's so beautiful to see.
It really is.
But I really love athletic. I said to Pauline, I'm so worried about growing. Can I slide into athletic?
That says every fitness girl that hasn't trained in a little bit. I mean, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, I've taken a few years off, or a few time, a little time off. I've lost a little mass, maybe I can just go into athletic. And I think it's just a beautiful category. I mean, it's really suited, like you said, for the girls that were the in-betweeners that maybe were too big for bikini, but yet not big enough for fitness. But it's still about symmetry. So for me, at the end of the day, is having that nice balanced physique and conditioned, because as we see, as the first few shows have gone on in the FMG, it really does come down to a lot deeper conditioning than maybe what girls and other people were used to in the past. That was frowned upon. Ching ching, me myself, that always got told you're too lean, you're too much, like all these things. Yeah. So now it's nice and refreshing to hear and know the validation of the conditioning coming through. That is a mark that matters more than actual muscle mass in some instances.
Correct. And look, I think the guys are doing a really good job of distinguishing too the separation between athletic to fitness, fitness to figure. And, I know it's something Pauline and I have spoken about a bit, and she's really wanting to cement that Bikini Athletic is that similar sort of size, condition, shape as like the IFBB Pro Bikini would be. And then we're looking, so that's like a baby symmetrical fitness, right? And then we're looking at fitness being super conditioned, super symmetrical, really great, muscular bellies and development, but not as big as figure and not as deeply conditioned as figure. So she's really trying really hard to make this really clear delineation. And I love this because, I think this is something that all the fitness girls should really listen to. Don't go thinking you've got to do hard gear, get massive, because it's not like that at all. I would rather you go get me symmetrical, get my glutes perfect, and let's come in conditioned and lean, but I don't need to have fucking striations in my ass. I don't.
Yes. So what you mentioned there, though, because I hope anyone that's taking anything away is taking notes that all these classes have their own level of conditioning, different balance and symmetry. But at the end of the day, every class is pretty much judged on the balance of your glutes. Do you have density in your glutes? Are they firm? Are they full? Do you have that shape that's going to make the rest of your body look actually balanced? Or is it going to make you look imbalanced? Because that's going to kind of dictate your category, like we were saying, right? So if you're lower body dominant, you're most likely going to be, favoring that wellness class. Versus if you have balance and you have symmetry, but your muscularity and your density and your muscle maturity is getting to a level that is maybe deeper than that class requires, then you just bump up a class, which is beautiful because now everybody has a category. You don't have to just feel like, oh, I'm too big, I'm too small. You actually just have to worry about your presentation at this point and making sure you bring a balanced physique for those classes, unless you're a wellness, because that's imbalanced when it comes down to the proportionate side of things. It's definitely not proportionate. It's like just more lower body heavy, but that does not mean soft. That doesn't mean just, more body fat levels. That definitely requires a level of conditioning that brings out the lower body muscularity. So that means that your hamstrings, your glutes, and your quads have to match. They cannot be one softer than the other. Like you've got to have the muscle bellies actually popping, maybe have a little bit of separation between the muscles, which is going to really be conditioning. It's not going to come from just having the nice shape, which is, it's normal for, an I wouldn't say everyday person because it's hard to kind of get that shape sometimes. But it does come with a genetic profile.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Genetics do play a part. And then I think, training over time, if you want to really sit in that space, you've got to really manipulate the physique to be there. But you are right. There is nothing soft about wellness. Don't think you'll slide into wellness because you're not quite lean enough for fitness, because you ain't going to win anything if you take that attitude. You've got to be almost a fitness level lean, but with a very disproportionately heavy lower half. That's what it is.
That's right.
So you got to think wellness is that next level of lean above the bikini categories. And you've just seen the Bikini Athletic is quite lean, right? So
it's lean. It's like fitness lean almost. Like in my opinion, when I see these girls, I'm like, they're pretty much almost lean as fitness. It's just that they don't have the striations. They don't have maybe those extra deep, maybe lines and veins. But they've got the separation of all the insertions of the muscles. Maybe not to the 6-pack level, but definitely a nice core.
Yeah, getting close. And I actually had this conversation with Pauline, and I thought I'd raise this on the podcast. Everyone listening to this can take this home. I've had a fair few people reaching out to me about, about Sam's sizing, because Sam is quite developed, right? And she's quite on the bigger side. But like Pauline said, Sam is at the higher end of that size. So that's the highest and the most developed someone could possibly be to still stay inside of athletic. Otherwise, she's going to be pushing into fitness and being a very baby fitness.
Which is what I was going to note next to that, Ali. People don't realize your height. Like if someone is really that tall, they're going to have to fill out those limbs and really fill out, just the core, and, the lower body has to be bigger. It's going to be bigger than somebody that's like myself. Like I'm at 5'4". I forget what that comes out in centimeters, but it's pretty much, she is just dwarfing me at this point. So if it comes down to, the muscle bellies, and I compared them, I mean, yes, she has maybe bigger muscle bellies, but that does not mean she's already developed enough to be in the class of fitness where her height would match that. So I do understand that some pictures can kind of be a little deceiving with height and overall muscle mass, but when you see her in person, you're like, okay, she's taller, she fills that out. She is a bit harder, than when, you obviously see in pictures. Then I think that it's an easy kind of thing for her to adjust. Like, I don't think that's like a hard adjustment for her. If she comes in as hard, which again, I think is a beautiful beautiful look. I loved it. I thought it was a great package that she was able to bring in, but I understand that some people might get a little bit more confused with where is that muscle mass, maybe shoulder cap and
you want to think no bigger than a Sam, and remember Sam has height. So if Sam was shorter, she would almost be too big for the category then.
And I'm going to compare her to the previous athletic champion. That was Paris Causley, and Paris won in Texas, and they were actually literally the same height. Like I was kind of comparing them. They are so tall. So if you don't know Paris, like Paris is actually like an Amazon girl. Like she is super tall. She's like a supermodel. Like she's, I forget, she's nearly 6 foot. So she is such again, a great aesthetic. Her muscle belly's filled out. She had great conditioning. But her density wasn't on that high end like Sam. So I understand how some people might be a little bit more confused on that end.
Because Paris is similar. A perfect example of it as well, right? So this is why I thought I'd raise it, because anyone aiming for this category, you can sit from there to there, right?
Yes, that's exactly the spectrum. Like from a leanness standpoint, both of them in great condition.
Top end, that you don't know more than that. You can't go more than that.
And don't be less than that either when it comes down to where Paris was. Paris actually had, again, those muscle bellies popping. Could she have been a little bit bigger? Maybe like going into what Sam was, she probably had room to grow. But at the same time, we're not looking at the density of the muscle as much as it's the symmetry that we're talking in the balance of these physiques. So if we're talking about a 5 foot girl versus a 6 foot girl, that density and muscle is going to look massively different. So the joints are obviously going to be smaller and more petite. If somebody is bigger boned and obviously has a longer torso, longer femur, it's just going to look aesthetically different. So try to make sure that you understand the dimensions of people you're comparing. So why I bring up Paris and Sam, I feel like they're just a really good example of how the tall girls can look a little bit more muscular than maybe a girl that is shorter and is more petite.
Exactly right. So I think that's worth saying, because, you know, we're obviously girls starting out to look at the crown and the rankings, you know, for where they're going. So I think that's a really cool way to showcase the two differences, but both crown levels, both capable, right? And that's your highest end, and the leanest, like you would ever be able to go. Don't go any more than
leaner. Yeah, don't go leaner than them.
Yeah. Category. And then there is obviously, you can win at Paris's level too, and Paris was also super conditioned. It was just a different, not quite so hard and dry.
Different muscularity. If you really come down at the end of the day, it's different muscle mass and maturity. I think that, you know, you can always tell, right, Ali, right when you see someone, how many years they've been training or how long they have under the belts. Yeah, exactly. Like she's, again, like potential is massive. So anyone that has ever seen her in person or has watched her on stage or maybe watched live, the girl's got like just an incredible aura to herself. She's got an awesome work ethic, and she's shown time and time from year to year how she can improve. So that's what it's about. Like this sport is all about improvement. So if you're listening, please take that away. We aren't this just to compete. We're in this to improve ourselves. And yes, we have a standard. We have something. And I love how this criteria in FMG is so much more easy to understand. And it's not a moving target. It's not like one show is changing to the other. It's already shown that from 3 pro shows, it's the same kind of criteria we're looking at. It just ends up being that maybe the champion looks different because of the people that showed up. Like,
exactly right.
You still have to remember all the marks.
We talk about that all the time, is that, you know, unfortunately, sometimes you have winners that are just the best on stage on the day. That doesn't mean that if you were to throw them onto a world stage with a lineup of Aussies that they're going to get anywhere, because they might not. They just might not. Like, that's facts. But, you know, you've got to remember, it's just what's best on stage on the day. And sometimes those people will be super competitive, and other times they might still have a little bit of room to move and grow and get more competitive over time, right? So sometimes if you're looking at the winners of the show, I would always sort of go, okay, who has consistently won and won in big shows with big lineups, because they're the ones you want to look to more. they're the ones that you know will actually be a benchmark. And if you're ever in doubt, reach out and ask, because, you know, there's going to be people at the top that are going to give you really good sound advice as to whether or not you're right for this category or this category. I always get people DM me and ask me where I think they should sit. And I welcome it. Please do it, because I'll always tell you where I think you should go, or if there's a crossover and you might still be in between a couple of categories, how long I think it might take you. And I think that's really wise to take it on board and know where you're going with your direction in your training and your you know, your preps.
On that regard, looking at the champions and seeing, of course, who won out of the last 3 pro shows and going forward into this next Australian show, as well as the Dubai show, all these new shows that are coming up. So looking at what that outcome is, I feel like is also a very enlightening thing to see, whether if the standard is staying pretty, you know, the same, which is what I've noticed. Like, that's like the #1 thing I noticed already from the get-go, from Texas to UK to California. The judging panel, because as you guys all know, if you don't know this, head judge is Pauline Newman. So she is pretty much running the standard of what those categories are. So it just really allows everybody to be unison, no matter what country, what show you're at. She's pretty much the one dictating, and it's not like a one-person thing. It's not like she's the only judge. There's a panel. It's a very fair, you know, obviously with scoring and the judging itself, it's all done. I like to look at it like the Olympics, because that's the way I kind of took it. Whenever you understand the judging, it's like if there is, for example, 7 judges, and you know, there is a controversy amongst the judges, the top, you know, the bottom and the top are going to get actually taken off, and the biggest average is going to win, which is really the majority, which is what a judging panel should be. It's the majority wins. So if somebody else like looks at it differently, that again, that top and bottom do get taken off, so that the actual average gets analyzed, which is fair. It's like, it's at the end of the day, it happens on that day.
100%. And it's just really good level of consistency with really quality training that goes into how the judges are actually scoring, and then it gets tallied by someone completely removed from the actual judging process that's adding everything up, and then you get your winner. And it's not okay, there's no conversation amongst the judges. There's no, hey, we want this person. It's no, fuck no, we tallied them, that's it. That's
There's a number. Yeah, you received a number from each judge, and it gets tallied, and it's again, it's pretty straightforward. So I love that transparency, and just the fact that, I mean, heck, we're all getting feedback within, like, honestly, if not a few weeks within the show, pretty rapidly after the show, and the placings, and like knowing where you stand within the top 10. It's just a beautiful thing as an athlete that you know where to go in improvements, how to go back to the drawing board to really actually see what next show or when is going to be a great, you know, following up show for you, if you need more building, or if you just need to go condition a little bit further and just do a back-to-back show. There's so many different scenarios, but if we don't get that feedback, if we don't know where we stand, if we just are in limbo, how the heck are you supposed to plan out, you know, what that next move is? So I love all of these changes, and I really think that the biggest difference is the experience. And I don't know what your takeaway is.
100% is. 100% is. Even just, you know, speaking to people that have maybe done previous shows that are now like, wow, it's just a whole nother level again. You know what I mean? But I mean, look, that's coming from us in Australia, where we've always enjoyed great shows. So we're a bit spoiled. But I know the Americans and the Europeans are like, holy crap, this is how it's.
Oh man, night and day.
You know what I mean?
It's night and day.
Exactly.
I get fuzzy. My heart actually just starts oozing, because I'm like, oh my God, like this has been what's been missing for so long. And I just love the atmosphere. I love the energy. I love just the whole community that truly is at these shows, from the ones I've been able to be at. Obviously, I really wish I would have been able to be at the UK show. That just didn't fall in our cards either. Really planned it, and it just didn't work out with the Texas and California being so close together. But it's been honestly just another energy that I personally had an experience, because there was always some type of negativity in some way, shape, or form that I used to just brush off, or I used to just kind of like, you know, make sure that I don't become a part of it, because that's not my mode and that's not my mojo. I just don't succumb. I just don't succumb to those kind of energies. And in this case, it's just not anything that's around. It's like, it's all good vibes. It's all good energy. Everybody's there to have a good time. Even if we are in a competition.
But it sounds so bad. There's not a moment where you think, oh my God, I don't want to have to see this person.
That's exactly right. I feel bad saying that, but it's true.
So true, because I would have several of those moments and I don't have any of those moments, and it's so lovely. And I actually find myself genuinely so excited to see everyone.
Yes.
So nice.
It might sound bad to you guys, but everyone that's been at the shows knows what I'm saying. There's always that, like, the shadow of energy that somehow was lurking in their room, and it was like, oh, you just kind of get that deep breath and like sunk into your stomach, and you're like, oh
God,
because something doesn't feel
we
good.
would need to have a meal and a wine to you know,
all the time.
After one of those events, it was like, wow.
No, now it's just celebratory. Now it's like, let's go cheers and actually have a really good dinner, because we're all in really good energies and we love everyone that's here. So I really have enjoyed being able to meet so many of you that were at the shows. For you, those of you that are in the future to meet because you're planning to go to a show. I know Ali has a lot of shows that she plans to be at. I'm not 100% sure what the 2025 schedule will be for myself, but I will be as many as I possibly can that my schedule
up to. So I think we will be, I think we've already talked to you about it. I'm going to be at a sports nutrition conference. I'll be coming to Texas conference. So I'll be at that in Austin the weekend before the Texas show. So we're going to go over, do that, and then come straight to the Texas show. And then we will definitely be at Miami because we've got an amazing team for the Miami show. I would really like to get to the Mexico show at the end of next year, but we will see how things go. And we will, definitely do like Dubai is a definite, but we will probably definitely try to do London too. But it's so it's a lot of travel next year. We were trying to make this year settled and setting up, and then next year.
I want to go to the Bali show. What are you talking about? What is it? The Thailand and Bali? I'm like, guys, this schedule is looking gnarly. Like I'm just excited to travel. Like, and get me on a plane. I will come see all of you.
I'm actually excited for Italy. Like I want to do Italy.
Oh, that too. See, you just mentioned another one I want to go to.
I really want to go and spend time. So I think that one will probably be one on the cards too. I mean,
do you know, possibly just for a teaser, if anybody is listening for Italy, when is Italy? Do you know?
We're still waiting on everything to be.
There's no set date. Okay, it's to be determined.
Time we're thinking it's going to be May.
I love it because I could go in May. Very selfishly, I'm like,
we're trying to lock that in, and also potentially an amateur Dubai show, which will be for males as well, early next year. So we're just in the process, and we're getting everything organized for that too. So
that is,
we're just waiting on two big yeses, and then we've got some very exciting news to announce for everyone for the next show.
Yes, that's a little teaser for everyone listening. That's awesome. But so in regards to FMG, guys, I feel like this has just been kind of what our life has really been revolving around.
Pretty much. Planning shows, running shows, a lot goes into it, guys. So, and we're really just the whole process for us is to make all of you have the most epic freaking week and weekend ever. Like it is largely to, and I know Steph is going to agree with me on this. The reason we wanted to be a part of it in these roles was because we knew what we loved about what we love and what we do, and we knew what was lacking, and we knew that being in a position to be able to bring to everyone what it should feel like for a competitor and the experience you should have, regardless of your outcome on that stage, was so fucking important to us that it was like, let's go do that. Let's go be that and show everyone that, this is the community, and this is the sport, and this is a literal professional and personal development zone for you, where you're going to feel safe and trust, you're going to trust in the group around you. You're going to have great experiences. You're not going to need to turn up and win to have felt successful. There's going to be so much else that you get out of it that you're going to love coming back again and again until you do get those wins, right? Because it doesn't happen overnight. And I think when you've got clear direction and you have beautiful memories being built and beautiful experiences, you don't mind taking feedback away and coming back and getting better and chasing something. When it's transparent and it's full of integrity, you are thrilled to have the ability to go progress and improve and develop yourself. It's just, that's what we wanted to build, and that's what we wanted to be a part of. And for us, that's what these shows mean. Like, I'm like, I don't care where you come from, who your coach is, what you've done previously. I just want you to turn up, have fun, turn it on, and feel like an absolute superstar by the time you leave. That's all that's important to me.
Oh man, everything you just said honestly gave me the chills, just you saying it, because it's exactly what I do feel. So I do agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
And it's mainly more about our community. I think at the end of the day, for us, I know it is for me, is I had a big backbone in my community that I felt responsible for. And I felt like we had no home. We had nowhere else really to go when everything happened. And thankfully, this new seed and everything that kind of came to fruition with the FMG has just been a blessing. It's been a blessing in disguise for a lot of us that may have not seen that, really understand it, and still don't understand it, think this is a rebrand. This is not a rebrand. This is not anything to do with the last federation. So please just understand that there's nothing lingering, nothing that's associated, nothing that's affiliated, nothing that comes even from the bad. If anything, I don't even feel like any good was taken, just because everybody that was good left, or everybody that was even, in my opinion, worth any type of human status, because anyone that wasn't a human wouldn't agree with what was going on or happening. So if you're human and you have good, purpose, as well as just good integrity to yourself, and you've just always wanted to be a part of a community that was supportive, positive, and always brought really, really fair judging, which is where I feel this kind of underlays this.
I feel like if you're a genuine competitor, like, you genuinely thrive on the concept of getting up there and having balls to the wall, battling it out, taking the L's and going and getting feedback and coming back, to try to get the W, then this is the place for you, because you'll never feel unworthy in a process of improvement towards the win. You will feel supported in the journey. You will feel seen. You will feel validated. You will feel all of the beautiful things that matter. And you'll also know that when you get up there in battle, the fucking best person on the day is the one that wins. It's got nothing to do with anything else other than they were on that day, on that stage, for whatever reason, the best physique and the best presentation. End of story.
You know what I love more is because the best person wins on that day, it's all recorded live. Not only do you get to view it live, it's actually recorded to where you can go and actually see it for yourself and review the show the way the judges saw it. So if you were questioning, well, I thought I had better glutes, or I thought I had better abs, or I thought I looked better conditioning, it's like super subjective to what we sometimes think we see to our body. And then lighting comes on, and then our, little extra body fat moves, and we're like, oh, I didn't expect that movement to happen on stage, because the stage was slightly slanted and I tripped and I jiggled a little bit. So all these things come to light, and I do love the part of how transparent it is. It's like it's not hiding anything. It's literally just wait for the Vimeo to come out, and you'll literally see everything that happens that stage from the lighting perspective, the judging side, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't do as good as I thought I did. And then sometimes those pictures aren't, they're enlightening, but sometimes they give us what we want to see. And it's like, well, we posed so perfectly for that photo that we didn't see the movements in the transitions. So where there comes that conditioning that might have just been a little out edged by the person next to you.
Exactly.
So it's just knowing that it is a sport. You do have marks, you have criteria to follow.
Yeah.
So if you don't do what you expected to do that show, it's not about just saying, oh, F this, I'm never competing again.
No, exactly.
It's more about
Don't
knowing
come
you
back.
can actually go back to the drawing board and say, well, what is it that I lacked? Was it muscularity? Was it conditioning? Was it balance and symmetry? Was it my presentation? Because I really didn't know what the fuck I was doing up there with my presentation. Because at the end of the day, I see that happen a lot.
I do too. I do too.
Like,
and look, I've actually seen a first place get taken from one and given to another based off of posing and confidence.
Oh,
I've seen that. And it's like, wow, how did you do that? Why did you do that? Why did you let that go? Like, it's super frustrating.
It's mental as well as we know, muscle memory. Can we get that pose to be on and just stuck on for a certain amount of time without you even thinking? Because when we're on stage, you black out. I don't think I've talked to any competitor that is just so into the moment that they know everything that's going on. You have something that's like a little bit lost in your realm, whether if that is in your whole zone, or again, a blackout moment where you're like, I forgot everything. Like, versus I can kind of sometimes remember, like, I just focused on one thing, and I remember seeing that light, you know, that was in the middle of the whole stage. Like, that's what I focused on. So because of that, we have to remember that your muscle memory is what comes out on stage. What you practiced over and over again is what gets, you know, as second nature on stage, right? So
the start of prep is so important. Don't leave it to your last 6 weeks, because you are not going to shine up there like the girls beside you that have been doing it for 20. Just remember that. You want to be starting it from like 20 weeks out. You don't
but
have
it doesn't mean to learn how to walk. I think a lot of girls get this wrong because of where we came from. It's like, oh, but I have to have the best walk. I'm like, look,
walk really doesn't. If I'm really honest,
walk is cool, but that's not what matters anymore. Like, please get that out of your head.
At all.
The walk is cute, it's cool, but it's not. Yeah. In your comparison rounds, what really matters: can you stick your pose? Can you flex your muscles? Can you actually kind of have that nice little tightness in your abs and your glutes because you're hinging, because you're extending? Like, what is it that your body needs for you to really position yourself? So I find that this is more of what most competitors need to focus on, not just the prep itself. And I know before we've talked about start your posing sooner, start your posing, you know, as soon as prep starts. But I honestly feel like that at this point, it's about doing posing year round. It's not even about
100% almost.
It's like, if you do not know how to turn your muscles on in your off season, what makes you expect to know how to turn them on in your on season? Like when you're
especially in the fitness category, like it's super important. Fitness and figure, for sure. So look, I'm like super excited to see what comes out of the GC show. I'm pumped because I know some of the people that have registered for Dubai, and it makes me so excited. I think we're going to have some really cool lineups there. I'm hoping to see even more registering in the next sort of, 3 to 4 weeks. And I really hope we see some people make some last minute decisions after GC when they're really, really close. Like, I hope they choose to come over, because that's what the best part about these shows being so close is. It gives you an opportunity to go, well, shit, I got second or I got third. I'm so close. Go tweak, bring a few things up, come back in, and actually.
They're a weekend apart, right?
Yeah,
they're only correct. Dubai and Australian.
Yep. So I've already a few people where I've gone, right, we weren't originally going to do it, but we're doing it now. And so I've had a few people that are, literally off this stage on a plane on the Monday to come over. We leave on the Sunday. So we're there Saturday night. I've got to get up super early, drive from the Gold Coast home, unpack suitcases, repack suitcases. I'm just going to have everything on my bed ready to go. And then we go straight to the airport. It's nuts.
It's definitely going to be a whirlwind of just emotions, because everything's set up. At that point, everything is set up. It's just about making sure everything just logistically falls into place. It is a whooping. I will say, I was telling you even before this call, like, my ass was handed to me. I mean, I was honestly in a, chicken with no head. I was like running around trying to make Texas and California happen.
Gives you a real appreciation for how, Pauline used to always say to me, Ali, like, after a show, her and Ari and the team would take a few days off work before they would return to work, because they would just be freaking wrecked, right? And she used to say to me, I don't even want to look at a scorecard or try to think about giving someone feedback for at least a week, because they need a couple of days to decompress, then they get back to work and they got to do their work, and then they've got to get back into the whole stuff behind the show. So
and usually, like, you have a business on top of this, so it's like you have workload to do already. So I'm blessed. I feel extremely grateful with how these last 8 weeks have turned out. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better team, better sponsors, better people to work with. Like, everyone that was part of the US shows, which were Texas and California so far. Of course, we have the Australian show coming up. UK happened in the middle of it. Europe next in Dubai. Then we've got Mexico coming right up, which I will be at. So anybody that is listening to this and wanted to say hi, I will be there. I will be supporting the show. So I will be making an appearance there, support JJ and Michelle. I know. I really wish I could have gone to UK. I really wish we could go to Bali.
We're gonna aim to do Mexico next year, I think. And then I've got a couple of athletes in Mexico though, so got a couple of teams going. And we've got a crew doing Bali, so we had to.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Although Mexico is to home, and I was like, all right, so we'll do Bali this year. We'll do Mexico next year.
Amazing. So in regards to, a little bit of updates, I think that everyone's just kind of wondering where the hell Allie and I have been, or where I have been.
Other than the fact that we've been running businesses, 2 under 2. I also assess the Sports Nutrition Association, and you've been running 2 shows. I'm planning to. It's nuts.
Honestly, how we're juggling it is through a lot of caffeine, not a lot of sleep. No,
hey, and you've had injuries too. So we both had some injuries.
That is rehab. Interesting. I will.
What's happened with yours?
Every time you think you're getting better, and I think this is just people can relate
something
to me.
regresses you.
Then something else pops up, and you're like, I thought I was better. I thought everything was healing right.
You know what? I'm going to throw it out there, Steph. What? You're actually starting to get a little older.
Damn it, Allie.
You've been like 5 years old for a long time, but I feel like we are now inching out of and close to out of the 20s.
Yeah, well, I am going to be aiming 32, so I guess you're right.
There we go.
You're definitely going into a little bit higher, into the 30s, which I do understand hormonal changes as well as joints and muscular changes.
I just find that it's a little bit more, you start to get a little bit more predisposed to injuries. I find it's actually a thing. Yeah.
I feel like the injuries are just catching up to me. I feel like these things have prolonged, and I've just been like, capping them and being like, you're not there. You're not there.
You're putting Band-Aids over things.
Putting them under and digging these holes. And I'm finally at a place that I'm done with trying to Band-Aid my injuries and pain. I need to find the root of the problem. I've said this a lot on my stories when I do hop on. I'm like, look, my injuries are still there. I'm trying to find the root. I think
you look amazing for someone who's had persistent niggles, and where you haven't been able to do your usual full pace, training. You look incredible. Like, no one would know that you have been suffering limitations in the lifts. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're really lucky that you had such a beautiful base before you had them really knock you. It really set you up for success. Like, you're not.
That is where I give it to them.
But you haven't lost your shape or your edge. You haven't.
Well, I really do think it comes down to those years, as we're talking about foundation, and what matters more is having that base. And I feel blessed that maybe the times that I've been able to, last couple of years regress from the intensity of training. It's not like I didn't have muscle mass to kind of support that. It was just that I needed to create a little bit more functionality in my movements that were getting dysfunctional due to those overpowering muscle groups that I didn't address, and I never cared to address because I loved the size. I'm like, oh, but my back is big. Like, it's good. Like, I'm good with it. Like, why is that causing me the problems of my spine and neck? And like, well, dude, your traps are too big for your body. Like, come on, like your traps are overpowering the rest of your muscle groups. So clearly here comes that dysfunction that I started creating years ago that I just again, didn't address. And now that I have the time and effort, and I say it's not that I didn't have the time before, I apply the effort. Yes, I actually have the
also
intention.
have a little bit more time, right? Like you're not pushing this envelope to be a certain thing all year round and
get onto stage. Or there's no deadline for me right now. So that's my plan. I plan to get back on stage with the non-determined exact date. I just know it doesn't need to be forced. I know that I'll get back on stage with my body a little truly. Yeah, I just need to let my body keep feeling better and healing, and with my injuries, they're come and go. They're like, some days I feel better, and then the other days I feel like I could barely move. Well, I'm like, oh, I can't move my neck, I can't move my shoulder. So it just comes with I've actually came to the reality, your pillows matter more than you think.
Oh my God, they really freaking do, babe. Like, no joke, I'm actually due to buy a new one because mine's just dying, and I have been starting to get neck issues, and it's literally down to me needing a new freaking pillow again. So no, I agree with that statement big time.
Big thing.
They really matter, and so does your bed. Your
the traveling was what made me realize these last 8 weeks we traveled so much that I've not been in my bed as religiously as I'd like. And now that I've been in other beds and other pillows, I realize I'm like, I think it was my pillow. I think it might be my bed. Like, so actually thinking of, doing something new there has helped me. And, obviously applying a little bit more corrective work in the areas that I feel more locked up in, which has still been in the cervical side, the thoracic side. So it's for me get very tight and very locked up to where I don't brain. Very fast. My whole spine is shit, honestly. And you probably, I can't talk. You have a broken back. I have no room to speak. So, but from lumbar, thoracic, cervical, it's shit. So, Ali, you live in this. So,
I just had my second round of cortisone injections into my facet disc on Wednesday, and I'd had my first round 1 month ago. So I've been in rehab. I had a flare up. I literally was doing really well. Everything was progressing. All my loads are progressing. Like I said to you when we were off line, I did my DEXA scan from postpartum to now. I had gained back 1.8 kilos of lost mass. So I was well on track. And then I just picked the kids up one day the wrong way and boom, that was it. That was it. I just, boom, it went. And I was like, oh my fucking God, here we go again. So I've avoided having to have the epidural nerve root blocker, which is great. I've just had facet discs done. And what we identified was from all the years of all of the relapses, my multifidus, which is incredibly important for all of the stability and, lumbar support and hip stability, the whole thing, it runs down the back. You can't isolate it. You can feel it when you get really in tune with it, but it's not like a muscle that you can fire really easily, and it's really hard to isolate. I'm going to this very specialist clinic with these European equipment that basically sit you stable pelvis, stable hips, and it isolates out the multifidus. So we did testing on it.
Like more of a tilt, like if
so you're in a flexion like this and you come right back, but there is no core, no glute activation.
No torque. No torque there. It's just really all
working. So what they did was they did a Newton force testing. So a force production test, which shows where you sit in the general population, and then also against your age bracket, and then also against your sport. And for my sport, I should be sitting at a 75 to 80% of force production. When they tested me, I was only at 14. And they said, it's little wonder that you're having relapses like this. They think that the 2 C-sections I've had that cut through 7 layers of your ab plate so close together has contributed to it all being, like disengaged and weak, right? So Yeah, so I'm going now to this place 3-4 times a week and progressively loading on this multifidus and through the core. And the way that it's working is I can load it post my injections. I've got no pain in the back, but I can feel myself getting stronger and I'm starting to go up in all the weight plates. So at the moment, I'm sitting on a 75-pound movement on it. Within the next 3 months, they want me at 160. So that gives you an idea about where I want to progress to. That's right. But once I progress to this, we should then see translation. What they're saying is translation of strength, progress, and also obviously mass development throughout my whole lower half, ridiculously faster paced, because I'm going to have that, better, broader stability, greater, stability through hips and pelvis. So I'll be able to actually do the lifting safely with a lot less.
Your technique is going to be awesome. Like your technique,
right?
So you probably have great form. You're overcompensating on probably those trap muscles to pull when you're lifting, rather than allowing that pelvic tilt. Yeah, there's so many things that we don't realize we're overcompensating with until we get injured, and then we're like, we got to regress all these things.
Exactly.
What is the movement, Pat?
I haven't announced it publicly, but at some point we will be throwing a third and final baby in. So I have to get myself strong. And that's the only reason why I'm like, I've got to throw a show in sometime very soon. And
are you praying for a certain, as a boy, girl, what are you wishing for? I'm just curious.
Do you want to know something really fucking outrageous? After all of this time and all these issues and the whole IVF situation we had, we actually fell pregnant naturally a month ago and lost it. So we've been, I didn't even know that I was pregnant.
Oh God.
And I had this really bad, so this has all happened in the last month. So I had this really bad cycle, like really bad, like pain and real heavy and real clotty. And anyway, it finished, and then I had only like a 5-day reprieve, and then I started to lose again, and it was a really odd loss. So I went to the doctors and was like, what is going on with me? We did all these tests and they did this ultrasound, and it turns out that, I had actually miscarried naturally, and I didn't even know I was pregnant. I came home and Christos was so upset, and I'm like,
of course.
It's not great, but at the same time, I'm like, but it was risky. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we had have actually kept going with that, that's an untested embryo. You have no idea if it has any kind of genetic abnormalities, right? Whereas our embryos on ice are perfect. They're all genetically tested. Anything that was compromised was thrown out. Like, you've only got really healthy babies. There's no issues. Whereas at the moment, if we fell naturally, like 1 in 5, maybe even higher, could have some form of genetic, disruption. And I would really hate to burden a child and a life with the inability to be, capable of being normal. If I could choose it, I would always choose to opt for the healthiest option, and to know, so I had a whole week where I was like, but at the same time I was like, that could have also been, like my body telling me that, hey, this one wouldn't have been 100%. So we'll wait, I don't know. But anyway, so at the moment I'm trying to
sending you guys all our love there. I know it's not as much as
I haven't actually shared it. We didn't share it on socials at all. This is the first time I've spoken about it. But it was one of those situations where, your hormones are a little out then after something like that. It takes, what they say, about 6 to 10.
Well, you were healthier, right? You would say that your hormones healthier. You were in a state of like your body actually thought, hey, let's go. Let's make a baby.
But random,
that's definitely not where you were controlled, like you said.
No, exactly. And look, it was that moment of, look, when we will, but it's under our terms on our times when we plan the transfer of a completely tested embryo, rather than, I don't want to just wing it with a natural pregnancy. But it was really nice to know that, hey, the body's doing
body was exactly what I was
and I was
saying. It's positive,
really positive. Yeah, it was really
positive and a negative all at once, right? So you can't
correct,
really be
correct.
mad. But I do think that, you know, where you're at in like with Georgie and Sophia.
Oh my God,
and,
right, exactly,
you know,
exactly.
That's a lot.
Exactly.
And of course, everything happens for a reason.
Age,
Everything for a reason. So
age
you
is
just
not on my side anymore, so I can't wait. You know what I mean? Like, I would personally probably wait another 3 years if I had it, but I can't. I'm like, I know I have to just go in.
Pop them out, Allie. Just get them out here. You build a family.
And then I'm literally going to be like, when you take the next one out, take everything out. I don't need it. Just leave my ovaries. Rip the uterus out because it's annoying. It takes forever to come back anyway. And I have a deno, and the only way to treat a deno is with a hysterectomy anyway. So just take it out. I'm not going to need the oven.
I don't need it.
It's closed. The bakery is shut down. No more baking. No more baking.
I love you. That's awesome.
Rip it all out. And then after that, I can actually look at making, you know, a comeback in what time
the stage is always going to be there. Right. There's no rush. The stage is going to literally be there, whether if it's next year, the year after that. There is no deadline. So just make sure that you feel your healthiest and you actually are ready to take that next step.
Look, I think that that's been the biggest beautiful thing about this whole journey too, is that I haven't felt any pressure to do anything. Does that make sense? Like, I'm involved in a different way, and I'm loving the role I have in it, and just being able to help so many people, you know, enjoy this beautiful community. I'm loving that even more than getting on a stage. And so for me at the moment, I'm like, I want to do a stage, but I'm also like, I don't care if it takes me a little bit longer. And what I have also learned in the last 18 months in particular for me is that there are so many more things in my life that are so much more important. Like, my family is everything, and the concept of potentially missing out on having it and what I want it to actually look like for the sake of throwing a stage in is ridiculous to me. And the fact that women do crazy shit like that and prioritize the wrong thing still blows my mind, and it's something they will regret later. And so for me, I'm like, no, I'm leaning all into what I actually want in life, and then the rest will fall into place at the right time, I believe. You know, like, I'm not in just not in a rush for it. But I would, you know, like I said, if I can make a certain something happen next year, which I will not disclose yet, I will make it happen. But if I don't, also I'm also cool with it. You know, we'll just see what happens. I've got to go with the advice of my team too. They might turn around and say, "Hey, Ali, you've literally got to do this transfer in the next 3 months," and I'll be like, "Okay, fuck, let's go."
No, and that's actually what I love. That also open to. It's like, it's not like you're forcing the stage. You're not saying I want to force a pregnancy or say no to a pregnancy. No, exactly. It's like, I'm letting my body decide.
Tell me when it's right, and I'm also
the right time.
Governed and led by the specialists that I put all of my, you know, faith and trust in, and that have never steered me wrong. And also, you know, I'm just cognizant of the fact that time is a thing for me. Unfortunately, you know, we did this later in life. It wasn't in my 20s anymore. So it was like, yeah, I can't mess around. I can't take too long, if you know what I mean. I don't want to be
leading. You're leading the way in a great way, where you're showing women that it can be done later in life. It's
well, mate, let's face it. I'll be back on stage for a comeback after 5 freaking kids.
My point. That's kind of like, again, getting to the not only did she do it later in life, she already has kids.
No one has any excuses. When I can turn up and do a stage 5 kids deep later in life, managing all the shit I manage, then no excuses. No excuses. No excuses. Anything can be done.
There's just your own BS you're believing in, your lies, not yours, Ali, because what we tell ourselves as an individual. We can't do this. The limitations of belief that we have over ourselves. So definitely breaking those chains and knowing that it can be done, because not only has somebody else done it, but you can prove to yourself that you could do it too. Whether if it's have kids later in life, compete later in life, start your journey later in life because you thought, man, this is too late. I'm 50 and I like haven't even started bodybuilding and working in the gym or doing all these things. It's never too late. Like, you actually have to believe
And look, you know, like I always say to people, look at Michelle, you know, like
It's a great example.
It's never too late. Like you can
look at Joan. Look even further than that. Like look at beyond Michelle and look at Joan. Look at her mother. Like her mother started
100%.
at 7
like
years old.
If we had a category for her, she would kill it. She'd freaking.
Oh, absolutely.
But in all honesty, though, you know, you can look and feel as young as you want just based upon how you treat yourself, right? So you got to remember that if you keep putting in the work and you keep putting health as a priority, you're going to age incredibly gracefully, and you'll still be looking like you can shake it next to 35-year-olds when you're well into your 50s. You know, we're seeing it.
Let me tell you, I've seen women way better in their later years than a younger girl. So it's really about you trying to start, not telling yourself it's too late to start, and making sure it's really for longevity. It's not just for that vain, like instant gratification of something. We have to really look at it for the long haul, whether if you're younger.
I really love seeing you taking time come back too, because I think that also is really good for other people to see as well, that, you know, you're not rushing into it. It's you want to make the comeback and be undeniable, right? Without issues.
I want to be pain-free. I want to be pain-free. I don't want to be in pain leading into my prep. You know, I want to actually say I brought my best without those limitations. I want to say I improved. I don't want to look the same. If you're someone that has gone on stage and you're like, well, I'm going to look the same, just keep working a little longer. There's no rush. Like, why make yourself look the same to go back on the stage to then make yourself self-sabotage and think that you're not worthy or you're not, you know, ready enough? It's more about knowing it's going to take a little bit of time, and it's okay if you might take a little longer than the person next to you. Everyone's lifestyle is different. Maybe the things on your plate are looking a lot fuller than the person that you're comparing yourself with. They may have a lot more time than you, a lot more
kids.
Exactly. So, knowing the things that are leveraging in your life and giving yourself the grace of maybe I need double the time of the person that has no kids, you know, or maybe because I have 3 jobs and I'm going to school and, you know, I'm doing all these things. Maybe a prep isn't going to be the most manageable thing right now. Maybe I just keep focusing on building and then think of my prep season to be when I lose one of the jobs or when I'm done with school or all the things. I will say I see people thrive under pressure. I am actually one of those people. You know, stumble up a whole bunch of stuff and like be like, I'm going to be a badass in this. And I would do really well. But when I reflect back, it's like I did too much for actually the potential that I feel that I could have done in that moment. You're still half-assing everything you could have done 100%. So knowing that maybe you don't need to be going 100 miles an hour and putting 10 things in your agenda and not being able to deal with your fucking bullshit, meaning your trauma that you're trying to layer down. And again, my digging and digging and digging of the injuries that I kept suppressing and thinking that I wasn't there, it's just because I wanted to get on stage. I'm like, my want to get on stage is more important than the longevity I'm giving myself. Yeah. So now reflecting, it's like knowing I definitely know I need to give myself that break. And I'm enjoying the break. Honestly, it's been very, very backwards of what I've ever would have anticipated it would have looked like. It's less training than I would think is necessary, but it's honestly just enough for what I need and for what my body's requiring. So I don't give myself the punishment of thinking, oh, I need to be in the gym or I need to do more. Exactly. I do enough every day for my corrective stuff that is sufficient for my body to move freely. That when loading, it's actually strategic. It's not even loading to my most you know,
that's me. That's where I'm at.
It's just trying to find blood flow, engagement, activation, know that I'm properly loading my body right. Make sure I prevent the injuries from happening again. So that's really where I'm.
Yeah, me too. I love it. It's so good.
So that's a recap, guys. That's literally giving you a little insight of where Allie's life is, my life is. We've been working. My biggest upcoming thing, besides, of course, the FMG shows, is the Dynasty retreats that I am more than overjoyed to be able to share annually with everybody. So anyone that wants to hop on into the retreats and maybe go and tour, you know, an island or do some, you know, really fun boot camps as well as, you know,
next date?
who are looking at early 2025. So it's going to be at the end of January, going into the early February. Really location, I'm announcing it actually next week. So you guys still with the drum roll, just know that it's going to be somewhere you've probably never been. I can probably attest that to a lot of people. The more, I guess, I studied as well as analyzed this location, the more I realized most people have not gone here. So I feel like it's just like one of those.
Cool because it's destination.
That's what I said. I'm like, oh, you've never been here, so I know you're going to want to go here. And it's like,
exactly.
let's see, pristine place that most people don't know of because it's hidden, and it's a very, it's beautiful. So you guys just stay tuned for the location reveal.
So nice.
But definitely make sure you're following the Dynasty Retreats page for more info if you guys are interested in those. It's open to anyone. You don't have to coach with me. You don't have to train with me at all. It could literally be anyone, anywhere in the world that just wants to come be part of the community. Gilco Productions is the photographer and videographer of our retreat. So you get a personal shoot with him. Individual, which if you guys already know is the most insane freaking photographer out there.
He's really,
and he's the Olympia stage videographer. So that lets you know kind of what the level of standard that he is. So he is going to be the one that's shooting you one-on-one. And we're going to have Cultivated Beauty on the retreat that's doing all the hair and makeup. So all your beauty services and everything. So it's going to be a freaking amazing time. So make sure you do hit us up there if you guys are interested. You know, of course, the Dynasty training as well as FMG stuff is the only other thing my life revolves around right now momentarily. Is you, Allie, probably the same with Allie's Angels, the FMG and your babies, and
that's
obviously all this rehab work we have to take care of our own selves. So yeah, this is a little insight, a little fly on the wall for you guys to see and hear what we've been up to.
We're super excited for the shows that are coming into the rest of the year, and you know, we're always a resource if you want to reach out, ask questions, get confirmation on categories or shows or you know, potential pathways too for multiple shows in a season that might make sense. Reach out. We're always more than happy to give you any advice and tips.
So guys, it's a pleasure to be on here again. And thank you guys for listening and taking your time to spend with us today and just catching up. Seeing what we're up to.
Absolutely. And we can't wait to see you all in the next week. And everyone, stay tuned. We're going to be going live 11 a.m. Brisbane time next Friday, which is going to be Thursday night.
7 p.m. Central, which would be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is what I feel like the whole world runs around is Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday night next week.
Yeah, cool. So we're going to be going live on the Dubai page. We're going to be chatting all things show and some, you know, analysis, if you will, too, on what has passed already. So please stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you all then.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later, Allie. Love ya.
Bye.